welcome our first speaker for today. She will be talking to us about finding and securing placements because you can't go on an internship when you do not have a placement. She'll be speaking about CV writing, writing of applications, improving career skills, career growth tips, navigating career paths, and workplace ethics, amongst other things. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be reading her bio so that you know that you have someone that is worth it in the room. And you know that we didn't sort anybody just come to speak to you. Teresa Tolulope Benro is the founder of the Whole NYSC movement, an initiative that has empowered 2,000 plus young people to live purposefully during the gap year. She is an award-winning social impact consultant with almost a decade experience. She is a youth advisory board member for the AU-EU Youth Action Lab, UNICEF YPAT member, a 2024 finalist of the Future Africa Award, and an Eloy 2024 nominee. Tolulope's work spans climate action, renewable energy, women empowerment, and youth governance. She is also a recipient of the 2022-2023 Nigerian Youth Futures Fund Leadership Grant and a 2023 International Climate Policy Competition winner. She is also an alumni of Enactus, Covenant University, MCN, Holt Prize, Live Africa, among other organizations. Tolulope holds a BSc in Industrial Physics, Applied Geophysics from Covenant University and has undergone specialized training in climate negotiation from IDEP. She is also a published author and has been featured on numerous media platforms. Ladies and gentlemen, please, with your best emojis, your favorite reactions, please join me make welcome to Tolulope Benro. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Mirabel, for that introduction. Please confirm I'm audible.
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, great, perfect. I mean, it's been a while my bio sounded that way, but I guess the energy in the room is high and the expectations are high. So thank you very much for having me. Thank you for registering. Thank you for joining. Thank you to the convener. Thank you to the volunteers. And thank you to everyone. We're in for an amazing time. So while I share my screen, I want to ask a question and I want to see your answer in the comment section. How long do you think your degree is valid for? How long do you think your first degree is valid for? What do you think is the lifespan of your degree, regardless of how many years your course takes to study? How long do you think your certificate is valid for before it expires? How long? 2 years, 1 year to your first job, 1 year, 2 years, 1 year, 2 years. Okay, exciting. So I'll go ahead to share my screen and I will answer that question. Your degree is actually valid for 2 years. The first year is to gain, to do service year, and by your second year, you're expected to gain your first work experience. So I'm sharing now, which means I can't see Google Meet. So please confirm you can see my slide.
Yes, we can.
All right, perfect. So today I'm going to be talking to us about Siwes 101, and I titled it Siwes 101 because I think it's a starter pack for anybody preparing to go on IT. When I saw the list of things that I was invited to speak about, I was like, wow, that's a lot. And I hope we're able to cover them and do justice to them within the course of the program. So I've divided the presentation into 5 main parts, and then the last one is really just gist and story time. We're going to start by looking at how to identify the right organization for your internship. Next, we're going to speak about application tools. We're going to talk about application steps. How do you go about this whole Siwes thing? And then we're going to speak briefly about career paths, workplace etiquette, and then just maybe 2 minutes on my experience. There are supporting resources, and I'm sure you will have access to those after the session if you register for it. When it comes to Siwes, something I think is very important is the ability to identify the right organization. So what should you be looking for? What should you consider when choosing an organization? Just an introductory quote. I think ignorance is dangerous, right? It's okay not to know until it becomes dangerous. So ignorance can be an excuse until it isn't. And ignorance can be costly. So I'm happy that we are here and like our founder and convener said earlier, it's important that we pay attention and have the right mindset to receive what we need to receive. So what should you be asking? What questions should you be answering when you need to look for the right organization to do your Siwes placement? The first thing really is, what are the top organizations in my industry where my skill can be applied to? So for instance, if you're in engineering, you want to ask yourself, if I'm a civil engineer, what are the top civil engineering firms? What are the top construction firms in Nigeria or in wherever you're doing your internship? That's the first question you want to ask yourself. And since basic education, the first school certificate expires after the first 2 years, going on Siwes gives you an edge because you actually require experience to get experience. But doing Siwes makes it easy for you to get the experience, the foundational experience that you need to grow your career. So yes, you want to make sure you make the most of the Siwes opportunity and hone it. Basically, at Hone NYS, we say something, we say every area of your life is important, right? And 1 year can change your life. So it's important that you make the most of the opportunity by going for the best organization. The best organization may not be the most popular organization. The best organization may not necessarily even be the most visible organization. But you just want to make a list. What are the top 5 organizations? What are the top 10 organizations in my field, in my industry, as a physics student, as a mathematics student? What are the top 5 industries or top 5 organizations? Second question you want to ask yourself is, now, out of these top 5 organizations, top 50 organizations, top 20 organizations, how many of these organizations are in my locality? So if you're in Lagos, for instance, how many of these organizations are in Lagos? If you're in Abia State, how many of these organizations are in Abia State? If you're in Kano, how many of these organizations are in Kano? And then when I talk about states, I'm talking about your residential area, so where your family lives, where your family is living. That's the second question you want to answer. The third question really is, how many of these organizations are outside my immediate environment but can be accessed? So let's say, for instance, you live in Kaduna and then you did little research, right, on the top construction companies. Maybe you have a civil engineering background. And then you see that 5 of these companies Is it better now? I got a message. All right, so I'm guessing it's better. Thank you for that. Sorry about that. So, like I said, maybe you studied civil engineering and you've done the base analysis, and you see that out of the 10 top organizations, 5 of them are in Kaduna, but you live in Abia State, right? That's something to note. Or 5 of them are in Kaduna and you have relatives in Kaduna, or you have a family friend in Kaduna, or you have a close ally in Kaduna you can stay with. That's also something that you need to know. For our generation, a mistake we make when thinking about career, making career choices, is planning our lives and making the career to revolve our lives. But for our parents' generation and the older generation, what they did was they thought about career and work and made it the center of it, and then they planned their lives around it. So if you begin to look at things like your family friends, your close friends, what you realize is the relationship your parents and the older generation have usually come from people that they work with, maybe people that they buy things in bulk with, business partners, company allies, or people around the church. So you now realize that church socialization and local community gatherings are linked closely to that. So your network is very important, which is why I asked this question. The next question really is, how can I leverage my current network to secure a good replacement? I think there's something that a lot of people undermine in saying, in my department, in my course, whose parent has an organization, whose parent has a firm, whose parent has a registered company that can also serve as a potential Siwes placements where I get the best. So it's important that you leverage and you ask the question about leveraging your current network, or who do I know, or who can I ask, where can I get the information from. Relationship is important, but information is also important, right? So the next question really is, what alumni owned businesses can I intern in? I think this one is just a top tip that really does not come to mind when we are leveraging relationship and saying, okay, people that have graduated from my school, they have set up businesses. Is this business in line with my field, and how can I intern in this place? These are important questions, because on the basis of network, knowing that you went through a similar background, chances are they are really more receptive to accepting you as opposed to other organizations, right? So you want to play in the area of competence, and you also want to play in the area of relationship when necessary. Another question really is, what organization have previous students interned in? So for instance, people that are in final year now, where did they do their internships? So people that interned in other places before you, where did they intern in, right? This is a question you want to ask. And the way you get the answer to this question is really by asking people. It's not by making an assumption. You ask them, where did you intern in? How can I get into the organization? What is the application process like? What was your experience like? How do I prepare? And then the final question here is really, what organization have students previously intended? So this one is not necessarily referring to people within your department. It could be people in other schools, people in other institutions, right? Oh, you're studying civil engineering in this school. Amazing, beautiful. So what top organizations do students from your school tend to intern in? How do they get in? Does your school have a partnership, right? These are the kind of questions. But at the core of answering this question in getting a good placement and mapping the right organization is really the place of information, which comes from research. So if you're not asking the right questions, you're not talking to the right people, you're not using social media properly, you're not going to get answers, right? And I have a quote here that really says, relationship can open a door, competence will get you in, and character will keep you there. So yes, relationship is super important. But more than having relationship, the competence you have is important. So if someone puts in a word for you and say, oh, CEO XYZ, this person is a colleague and wants to come to intern, they've used the relationship to open the door, but it's your competence that determines whether you get in or not. If you can't do the work, if you're not willing to learn, the organization is not going to take you. And it's your character and behavior that determines how long you stay in the organization, or how long you're able to, on your own now, personally nurture that relationship. So it's important to note that. Now, to the next thing, we're looking at application tools. What are some key tools required for getting the right internship placement? The first one is your Siwes letter. Your Siwes letter really is the most important tool. And what I have realized, or what I really learned from my own Siwes experiences, some students do not necessarily wait. So if you know, based on history, based on research and information, that your school is going to take a while before they give you your Siwes letter, then it's important that you go ahead to the Siwes office and try to request for your Siwes letter earlier than usual, or as a group, maybe having representatives of presidents from various departments go to Siwes and try to facilitate that Siwes letters are released on time so that you can secure placements on time. The best time to secure your placement is not the month that the holiday starts. It's not a week before it starts. It's really like the semester before it starts. That's when you want to secure your placement. The next really is your CV, right? And I'm sure here you're asking yourself, I have no experience, so what do I need before? And I will get into that in the next slide. And then a cover letter. So when we say cover letter, we're really just referring to a formal letter that introduces you to the organization. But what I have come to understand from my experience with Siwes and working with students is most organizations want you to write a letter with your hand. So they want you to write a formal letter, scan it and send, or write a formal letter and send it to a physical address for the organization. There are also some organizations that will say, oh yes, send a cover letter, a handwritten letter, but most times, a typed letter rather, but most times it's going to be a handwritten letter. So again, information is important, because if you are applying to an organization that needs you to type a letter and then you're sending a handwritten letter, then there's a problem, and vice versa. And then, of course, recruitment assessment. Now, in this situation, most of the time, it's usually one assessment that has different components. So they can ask you 10 questions on your personality. They can ask you 10 questions on basic mathematics. It really usually has a lot of those quadratic equations, right? You can ask again, people that have gone ahead, do your little research on past questions, but do not solely rely on past questions, because life is not all about cramming and pouring. And sometimes the questions and the nature of the questions can change. Of course, a little bit of statistics always comes up in recruitment assessment, and then a little bit of verbal or English might come up. And then you have this, I don't remember what it's called, where they give you shapes. Yeah, like an IQ testing where they give you shapes and things like that. They may give you 10 or 20 questions on that, depending on what the organization prioritizes. So every area or every aspect is important. Very rarely, there may be situations of physical job interviews. Very rarely. In some organizations, it happens for Siwes. In other organizations, not necessarily. For most people, it's just really the cover letter or assessment. And then when the organization thinks you're fit enough or you're competent enough, depending on the kind of organization and the budget they have for recruitment and their work ethic and culture, they'll send you for medical fitness. They pay for it, they get the result directly, and then they determine when you resume. So how do you apply? The first thing to note in applying is research and send cold emails to the human resource of the organization. You can use LinkedIn, and then you can use an email. So for instance, if I work or if I'm hoping to work in a multinational, I need to ask myself, what are the top 5 multinationals in the company? Then I need to ask myself, who are the HR or human resource personnel in this organization? And I need to ask myself, who is the head of human resources for this organization? So I can find this information on the organization's website where the company profile is, or I can go ahead and do some research on LinkedIn or social media. And of course, I can always ask people, right? Don't be so independent or overly independent where you think you can always get the answer yourself and you don't need to ask people. Go ahead and ask. Find out who that person is. You can send them an invite. And then the good thing is, if it's on LinkedIn, as you're sending an invite, you can send a 20-word email to let them know why you want to connect with them. Of course, they accept your connection. You go further with the conversation, sending them your credentials, and they let you know what is. So don't wait until you hear organization A is looking for interns before you go ahead to apply, because what usually happens is when students reach out before the Siwes time and the call for internship is open, the organization would send a bulk email informing the students, okay, this is the date for this is what we need you to submit, right? That's what happens sometimes. In other situations, they may not even put out a call, because if 100 people have reached out to me and I'm the HR of the company, why am I asking more people to apply if I know we have slots for only 5 interns? So yes, it's important that you reach out. Then submit an application for Siwes program. I think the application for Shell is currently open. So yes, there are organizations where they tell you apply for Siwes programs. And I think because of the rebranding in recruitment, where you have graduate trainee, traineeships, internship, it's important for you to read properly, read beyond the caption, do a little bit of research. Because for instance, I saw an organization, they did something traineeship, internship, and inside it, they were taking Siwes, they were taking graduate trainees, they were taking core members, right? Which is very unconventional in the way recruitment works today. So you need to read what is there and be patient with it. And then the fourth one was something I actually learned during my own experience. Some people understand that they are the savior of their family. So when it comes to Siwes, they are not waiting for anybody to put out call for application. If you understand or you've mapped out these organizations, you know where they are, it becomes easy for you to say, I'm printing out my Siwes, different copies of my Siwes, colored copies of my Siwes letter. I have a copy of my resume. I have a copy of the cover letter addressed to the HR, head HR. And then you go to the physical address of the office, you knock on the gate, and security comes to meet you. Who are you here to see? You say you have a letter for HR. Do you have an appointment with HR? You say no. So security takes that, your folder, and gives it to HR, right? So when the opportunity comes up, HR might most likely consider you. It is very important. And yes, it works. I knew people you work for. But I heard some people do that and I was like, Yeah, we'll talk about that in the story. But I think the most important thing really is to apply, right? When it comes to career, when it comes to opportunities, the kind of opportunities you're looking for are actually not the kind that you apply for. They are the kind of opportunities that come as a result of recommendation through competence and experience. But before you get to that level, you have to pay your dues by applying, doing the groundwork, asking the right questions, right? You may think, oh, I am in one eastern northern state, there's no multinational, there's no oil something, there's no chemical something, there's no polyester something. I promise you there is at least one, and that one is a very big one. You just don't know because you're not asking the right people, right? So make sure you open your mouth and you ask for help so that you can get the help that you need. Of course, if you don't ask, the answer is always going to be no. Okay, I think that went very fast, so let me do it again. Yeah, we can see for those of us that are taking screenshots, if you don't ask, the answer is always going to be no. Now, moving quickly into CV and cover letter writing for Siwes students. The first thing I'm going to speak about is to demystify the myths of CV writing. And then it really comes from the place which I've spoken about earlier, where people think about getting an opportunity solely by relying on relationship. Competence is important. You asking, you putting yourself out there, and you being able to do the work is important. The first thing I'm going to say when it comes to CV writing is tailor your CV. And for a Siwes student that has never had a CV before, it's a good place to start. So if you're president, you're president of a department, you're in student council, you're volunteering with an organization, it's important that you put the learnings. So you don't want to say things like, oh, I volunteer as the president, I am the president, we don't care, right? What you want to put for your experience here at Siwes is led a team of 12 student leaders to execute XYZ ABC, created a financial budget to serve the purpose of XYZ ABC events. Let there be numbers and just go ahead to describe what you've done. Don't I did, I led, you just led, you executed, you created, you implemented. Just go ahead and implement it, don't I led basically in your CV. And then here, I think one thing I'm going to just do is really break down certain things that should not be in your CV. So if you have all those fine CVs that they give you one circular place to put your picture, you're not going to go on picture, you want to go and do photo shoots with makeup and you think, oh, because your face is fine, the Lord will show you favor, will accept you. Please remove that picture from your CV. Your gender is really not important because recruitment is not supposed to be a thing of bias. So we don't need to know whether you're a male or female. We just need to know whether you're competent enough to do the job, okay? So remove gender. Your age is also not important because as much as you think some of these things are advantages, I mean, it was and it is in certain kind of recruitment, but if it's not requested for, don't put it there. What you're going to do is you're going to end up underselling yourself. So picture, gender, age, local government, religious, marital status, we don't need to know. Please remove them from your CV. Yes, your work history is really about the competencies that you have. And if you're not really someone that is leading anything, but you volunteered on something, that can come under your work history for your Siwes application. Of course, your education, your school, your qualification, your CGPA is also a good selling point, right? School is not a scam. So if you have a first class, you have a 2-1, whatever it is that you have, be proud of it and flaunt it well, right? Use your advantage to your advantage when you can. Their accomplishments, yes, leading a team of 60 young people is a crazy achievement. So that can go under accomplishments. If there are certifications that are relevant to your course, go ahead and put it. If you're in the engineering field and you have a HSC certification, please go ahead and put it. If you're in whatever field and you have a project management certification, go ahead and put it. If you are in whatever field and you have a human resource management certification, please go ahead and put it, right? These things speak to your soft skills and in certain areas, your hard skills. So the certifications that are relevant to your field of study and to the internship you're looking for are the things that should be on your CV. It's not that you've taken 20 courses, you come and put all the 20 in one under certification in one page. That's not what we're saying. The awards you have won, nominated for 2024, blah, 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 go ahead and put them. And of course, your relevant hard and soft skills. For me, I'm going to put PowerPoints anywhere, any day, anytime, right? If I want to go ahead with data analytics, I go ahead with that. But what I'm going to say is don't oversell yourself and then be everywhere. So if you're applying for a job that is more graphics design related, then you can put PowerPoint and whatever. But if you have the skill and then you're applying for an engineering job, then your PowerPoints may not necessarily, it could be relevant within the team, but it may not be necessary to get you that job. What may be relevant to get you the job may be maybe your ability to connect and disconnect wires in 5 seconds. That is also a relevant hard skill depending on the job. And then for contact information, you can put this information because you're applying for Siwes. And for country or for address, I just recommend putting Nigeria, because again, you don't want to undersell yourself. You don't want to be in Kaduna applying for something in Abia and then they see your Kaduna address, and because you're competent, HR is like, oh, I don't want to even call the person to ask them whether they're able to come to Abia or not. So if it's not necessary, just put Nigeria, okay? Your phone number +234, go ahead. Your professional email, not at 00710988, just a professional email. First name, last name. Student email also goes a long way. Your digital profile, if you're a creator or designer, is important. And if you're not a creator or designer, the world is really digital. So your LinkedIn profile, regardless of what you've posted, what you've not posted, your LinkedIn profile is very, very important. And your CV at this stage should really not be more than 2 pages, regardless of who you are, what you have done, what you've accomplished. It's recommended to save your CV as a PDF or in doc format. So for cover letter, like I said, it's a formal letter, and then you can do it in 3 paragraphs, right? The first paragraph, introduce yourself professionally. My name is XYZ. I'm a student of ABC in this department with a CGPA of it. Then second paragraph, I am writing to apply for a Siwes placement at your organization because I stand out in this way. And in the third paragraph, you can talk about why you want to work with the team, looking forward to hearing from them. Just basic tips. Link your Siwes to a department. So if you're working in a multinational, let's say it's related to the petroleum industry or to the energy sector, you can decide to say, oh, I would like to intern in the sustainability department, or I would like to intern in the downstream arm of the business to understand ABC, EFG. I understand this assets, this organization currently manages assets, etc, ABC in this. They may not necessarily post you there, but it shows that you have a good knowledge of the organization. And knowledge of the organization is something that can help you get into the organization. So moving in, we're running fast because of time, navigating a career path. Now, what I'm going to say about this is, to succeed, you will succeed in a career not by just doing what you like or playing in any career field, but by playing in the field where you will succeed exceptionally. So what am I saying? What I'm simply saying is, to succeed in a career, you need to understand the field where you will succeed in and play in the field where you can succeed in. So the first question you want to ask yourself is, how am I going to succeed in the field? Now, this is more post Siwes, not really about Siwes, right? When you're done with Siwes, you're leaving school, how do you know what you want to do? Because what you study is not always what you may practice. But with life, every experience, every knowledge comes with transferable wisdom that is important. So the answer to this question really is God. God is the one that can give you the best answer and tell you this. When I was in my final year, I was very worried about what I wanted to do after school. I was so bothered, concerned, worried about so many things. And I remember we had this brief period before we left school. And during that period, I was praying and I was like, God, where am I going to succeed in? Where am I going to succeed in? And in knowing, okay, this is the sector I'm going to thrive in. This is the industry. This is the profession. It made it easy for me to say, okay, yeah, so what's the next step, right? So don't just think about it as AI is the thing. I'm going to go and do AI. Forex is the thing. I'm going to go and do Forex. Well, you're going to start preparing for it this year, for instance, or in the next 1 to 2 years. So what happens if that thing you're preparing for now is not the thing that is the cash cow of the economy or the cash cow globally in the next 3 to 4 years? Then it makes you irrelevant in your sector. So that's the first question. Second thing I'm really going to say is the season. Seasons are very important. Every year is different. Like 2025 is that year that you have to go. You go hard or you go home. That's what 2025 is, right? So it's important to know, what season of life am I in? What season is this year? What do I need to do in this year? How do I need to align myself in this year? It's like 2025, there are things you may have done before and then they didn't work. But in 2025, if you just try it, it will work. That's literally the place of season, right? And then there's a place of alignment, because if you know what the season is and you're not aligning who you are, what you need to do with the season of life that you're in, with the season that has prepared itself, then you may miss out on certain things. Okay. And then gratitude, right? Gratitude is, I became a happier person, not because I started earning more, but because I decided to choose gratitude instead of spiraling what I didn't buy, what I didn't have, what I didn't like. I just sat down and I'm grateful. I went for a trip one time, and there was this day I wanted to cry in the trip because I didn't have I didn't have something to do something everybody was doing. And it was more like a recreational stuff. But then I was like, wow, a few months ago, I was praying about this thing and then I'm here. So I should be grateful that I'm here, not crying about what I don't have that is bigger and bigger. So choose gratitude, choose joy, okay? And then understand the place of competence. Whatever your hands find to do, do it with all your might. For a while, you may not be sure. For a while, people will tell you what they think you're good at. And for a while, people will tell you what they think you should invest in, right? They're trying to live through your lens. But the most important thing is what you found your hands to do, do it with all your might. If I was going to speak this topic in a paid lecture, the points I'm speaking about now are the same points I'm speaking about here. So if you're not doing it competently when you're not paid, you're not going to do it competently when you're paid, okay? And document. So it's not about you liking to be seen or not liking to be seen, but document, because at the right time you would wake up and you will realize the power of visibility in itself. And when you feel like everything I have said is not working, just focus on what is working. There are times in your life where you feel this is the year, this is the season, I need to go, it's working for everybody. And it's like everything you're doing is not working. In that season, you just want to keep quiet and sit back and say, what area of my life did I not plan for? What area of my life is not on my top goal list, but is working? And then you want to focus on that thing. Okay, and most of the times, the places where we'll succeed at are the places that can kill us. What I mean by that is the areas of our greatest weaknesses are also the areas of our greatest strength. When we learn to harness them in the right way and play in the right profession and industry with them as well. So speaking into workplace etiquette, very briefly. First thing I'm going to say is workplace etiquette varies depending on the organization, but some things are a given, which is number one, understand the work culture of the organization and choose to be professional and respectful. Yes, with the younger generation, organizations are forcing themselves to be more inclusive, right? And you have baby boomer generation working in an organization with a Gen Z, and the manager is telling them, oh, a millennial manager is telling a Gen Z that, oh, you should be calling the baby boomer by their first name. And the baby boomer will hear you say, Tunde, to a 70-something-year-old man. And the man is just looking at you because, like, if I catch this child outside, I'll beat them. So, yeah, understand the place of work culture, but also be culturally aware of the place you're working in, right? Because culture working in the north may not necessarily be the culture working in the east and other parts of the nation. Most importantly, be professional in your speaking, in your interaction, in the things that you do. Be professional. Emotional intelligence is also so important. Ability to understand your emotion, ability to understand the emotions of other people, and ability to regulate your emotion properly. Just as a tip, I recommend taking a personality test. And then under the personality test, there's usually a breakdown. Please remind me to add this to the recommended resources. There's usually a breakdown where they speak about your work relationship. When you learn more about yourself, it makes you better. Don't wait till you work, and maybe in your second year of building a solid work relationship, everything comes crumbling down because you're learning so much about yourself and you're overwhelmed by it, right? Understand if you're a leader. Understand if you're someone that dislikes micromanaging. Understand if you're someone that needs the micromanagement to be able to work. And of course, over time, you will change based on the teams, based on the people, and based on life experiences. So you can take the test about three months interval just to see how you're growing, understand yourself more, know what to say, know what not to say, know what to say, know when to say it, know how to say it, right? Those things are also important. Document your work and be vocal about it. Of course, you're going on Siwes, you need to document things down. So that is also important. And mind your business. If it's not work, try not to put your head inside. And of course, be prayerful, right? Keep your personal life personal, your professional life professional, and you'll find people that will help you on your professional journey, right? Everything is not hide and keep things to yourself. Okay, because of time, just going to run through my Siwes story. I had a funny one because I did Siwes during COVID, and I remember applying to a number of organizations, having to do tests. Getting a placement was not the easiest. I can tell you that for free. And I went for one. That was Slumberger's assessment. And when I went there, I realized that all 12 or 14 of us were from Covenant University. I was the only person from physics department. The rest of them were engineering students. They had a group chat. They were preparing. They had past questions. I was too stunned. But anyway, yeah, I didn't get feedback from them. And then I remember also I'm applying to Halliburton as well. Halliburton went fine. They asked for Siwes letter, handwritten letter, and then they sent me, oh, congratulations, welcome. So I went to do my medicals and I was excited. They scanned my ID. And then the first day I was supposed to resume, they were supposed to do like HSE, health, safety, environment, they'll do safety features. Their backup generator was not working, and that's like safety hazard. So they told us to go home, industrial action. And then the next thing we heard was Governor Wike announced that we should sit at home because of COVID. So that's how Halliburton went. Yeah, but it would have been a great experience. So yeah, there were different experiences based on what I have said. But I think one thing I really want to point out is, based on the way COVID went, eventually I ended up with a 4.0 on my Siwes, and I cried. I tell you, I did not cry. I'm lying. I cried because I wish I had a 5.0 on that. The good part is it kept my CGPA constant that year. It did not break it down. I have a video on YouTube where I spoke about academics, extracurricular, and broke down my academic progression more. So I think you will find that helpful, regardless of what your result has been and how it has been for you in school. As a wrap up, I just want you to know that the way to fix whatever you think you've lost or whatever you think is not going well is either in the present or in the future. So ensure that you finish well, right? The empty places in your result are already taken, and you can do your best to cover the rest up with a 5 points. It's very possible. Of course, there are supporting resources and they will be shared to you. Competence is so important. When you leave school, people will see you as a competent professional before they remember that it's a young person that is competent. So competence always overshadows bias. That's important to note. Thank you for listening. Feel free to connect, and please stay to the end because we have other amazing speakers, right? We had speakers meeting, and trust me, I'm also staying to the end, even though I'm not doing Siwes. Thank you very much, and over to the moderator.